Captain Elias Martinez opened his eyes slowly. The familiar hum of the U.S. Intrepid's engines greeted him as he stared at the metal ceiling of his quarters. His head throbbed with the memory of yesterday's events, standing before the Galactic Council, refusing to bow, refusing to kneel. No human would bend to alien masters, not while he drew breath. The ship's computer chimed softly. "Captain, you have visitors waiting outside your quarters," the smooth voice announced. Elias sat up, running a hand through his short, dark hair. "Let them in." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Communications Officer Lisa Bennett entered first, her normally calm face tight with worry. Behind her walked First Officer Daniel Wright, his tall frame stiff with tension. "Sir," Lisa said, clutching her data pad tightly, "we've received word from Earth. The Council has imposed immediate sanctions on all human colonies." Elias stood up, straightening his uniform. "What kind of sanctions?" "Trade restrictions, travel bans, removal of protection status for our outer settlements," Daniel answered, his voice low and serious. "They're making an example of us, sir." "Because I wouldn't kneel," Elias said. It wasn't a question. Lisa nodded. "The footage of you standing while every other species representative knelt has spread across the galaxy. Earth's Central Command is flooded with messages." Elias walked to the small viewport in his quarters. Outside, the magnificent rings of Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world, glowed with an unnatural blue light. Beautiful, but cold, like everything about the species that rule from this place. "How's the crew taking it?" Elias asked. Daniel shifted his weight. "Divided, sir. Some think you're a hero. Others—" He paused, searching for the right words. "Think I doomed humanity." Elias finished for him. "They might be right." Lisa stepped forward. "Sir, I just came from the communications bay. It's not just official channels talking about what happened. People across human space are sharing the footage. You've become a symbol of human stupidity, perhaps," Elias said with a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Of human dignity," Lisa corrected firmly. "The hegemony has pushed us around since first contact, always demanding more concessions, more resources, more control over our affairs. Someone had to draw a line." The room fell silent as Elias turned back to the viewport. For 50 years, humans had played by the Council's rules. They joined the galactic community with hope and wonder, only to discover they were expected to serve, not partner. The Council, dominated by the ancient hegemony species, treated Earth as a resource, not an equal. "Captain," Daniel said, breaking the silence, "Admiral Rivera is requesting an immediate secure transmission from Earth." Elias nodded. "I'll take it here." When his officers left, Elias activated his secure terminal. Admiral Rivera's weathered face appeared, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Elias, what have you done?" the Admiral asked without greeting. "What someone should have done years ago, sir." The Admiral sighed. "The President is facing calls to remove you from command. The Chinese and European Union representatives want to send someone who will apologize to the Council." "Will he?" Elias asked. "No," Rivera said, surprising him. "Not yet, anyway. Your little display of defiance has stirred something up back home. People are tired of bowing and scraping to aliens who see us as barely civilized." A notification flashed across Elias's screen. "Sir, I'm getting a strange message. Encrypted, but using Council diplomatic codes." Rivera frowned. "Who from?" "Councilor Xyra of the Aldarian delegation," Elias said, scanning the message. "She wants to meet. In secret." "Could be a trap," Rivera warned. "Or it could be something else," Elias replied. "The Aldarians have always been the most reasonable council members." "Watch yourself, Captain. You've already made powerful enemies." Elias nodded. "I'll be careful. But if there's even a small chance of finding allies within the Council, I have to take it. Earth can't fight the entire galaxy, Elias." "No, sir," Elias agreed. "But maybe we won't have to." Maybe there are others who are tired of kneeling too. After the transmission ended, Elias looked again at the glittering rings of Nexus Prime. Whatever happened next would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. And it had all started because one man refused to kneel. The lower levels of the Grand Spire were nothing like the gleaming halls where the council met. Here, the ancient structure showed its age. Dim lights flickered along curved walls. The air smelled of strange spices and industrial cleaners. Elias moved carefully through the narrow corridors. He wore plain clothes with a hood to hide his face. First Officer Daniel had argued against this meeting, but Elias had made his decision. "This place gives me the creeps," said Frank Johnson, his chief security officer. Frank was a large man with quick eyes that missed nothing. He kept one hand near his concealed weapon. "According to the message, we turn left up ahead," Elias said. They found the door exactly where Counselor Xira's instructions said it would be. It looked like all the others. Gray, unmarked, forgettable. Frank scanned it with a small device. "No traps or surveillance that I can detect." Elias nodded and touched the panel beside the door. It slid open with a soft hiss. The room beyond was small but comfortable. Counselor Xira stood near the center. The Aldarian looked very different from her council appearances. Gone were the formal robes and ceremonial headcrests. She wore simple clothes that hid her high status. "Captain Martinez," she said, her translator giving her voice a musical quality. "Thank you for coming." "Counselor," Elias replied with a slight bow. A gesture of respect, not submission. "Please, in this place, I am just Hyra." She gestured to another figure who stepped from the shadows. "This is Ambassador Caroline Holt, your Earth representative." Caroline was a serious woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Captain, your actions have created quite a storm." "I'm aware," Elias said. "The question is, why am I here? Why the secret meeting?" Vitera moved to a table and activated a holographic display. "What you see here are star systems where resistance to hegemony domination has been eliminated." Elias studied the display. Dozens of systems glowed red, forming a pattern across the galaxy map. "Eliminated how?" Frank asked. "Some through economic pressure, others through more direct means." Caroline answered grimly. "The Council presents itself as a democratic institution, but the hegemony has controlled the real power for centuries. You're not the first species to stand against them," Kavira added. "Just the first in a very long time." Elias felt a chill, and the others were wiped out. "Not all," Xira said. "Some simply learn to kneel and survive. But there are those of us, even within the Council, who remember when things were different." Caroline touched the display, zooming in on Earth's sector. "The hegemony fears humans. Our development has been too rapid, our expansion too ambitious. We've played by their rules," Elias protested, while questioning them at every turn. Xira said with what seemed like approval, "Humans are dangerously independent." Frank crossed his arms. "So what happens now?" "The Council has already started sanctions." "That's just the beginning," Caroline said. "The hegemony representatives are pushing for military action. They want to make Earth an example." "Then why help us?" Elias asked Syra directly. "Why risk yourself?" The Aldarian's inner eyelids blinked slowly. "Because my people remember freedom. Because the hegemony's power must be challenged. And because what you did, standing when told to kneel, stirred something long forgotten in many council species." She moved closer to Elias. "There is a faction within the council that wishes for change. Your defiance gives us an opportunity." "An opportunity that could get my planet bombed," Elias said. Caroline nodded gravely. "It's a risk, but continuing to bow to every hegemony demand will only delay the inevitable. They've been systematically limiting Earth's development and expansion for years. We need evidence of their corruption," Xira said, "something that could sway the neutral council members." Elias looked between them. "And where would we find that?" The Nexus Archives, Taxira replied. Records going back thousands of years. If there's proof of hegemony manipulation, it would be there. The archives are heavily guarded, Caroline warned. Frank grunted, and probably monitored by the hegemony. I have access, Taxira said. As a council member, I can bring a small research team. Elias considered their options. Return to Earth and prepare for possible conflict, or stay and search for evidence that might prevent war. If we're caught searching for dirt on the hegemony, he began. Then humanity loses its most defiant captain, Caroline finished, and maybe its last hope for change. Elias made his decision. When do we start? Back on Earth, Acting Fleet Admiral Catherine Mills stood before a wall of screens in the Emergency Command Center. Each screen showed a different human colony or outpost. Reports flowed in steadily, none of them good. Nova Terra Settlement reports hegemony ships in their sector, an officer called out. They're scanning our defense systems. Catherine's face remained calm, but her hands tightened behind her back. Any aggressive moves? Not yet, Admiral. Just making their presence known. Another officer approached with a datapad. Latest directives from President Graham, Mom. Catherine quickly read the orders. The president was walking a dangerous line, preparing defenses while trying not to provoke full-scale conflict. The sanctions were already hurting Earth's economy. Some colony worlds were reporting food shortages as alien traders canceled deliveries. Get me a secure line to the Intrepid, Catherine ordered. Minutes later, Captain Elias appeared on her private screen. He looked tired but determined. Admiral, he said with a nod. Captain Martins, your little act of defiance has put us in a difficult position. Her tone was stern, but there was a hint of something else. Respect, perhaps. I understand, Mom. Do you? The Chinese delegation is calling for your court-martial. The European Union wants to send formal apologies to the Council. Catherine leaned closer to the screen. Meanwhile, I have hegemony ships testing our defenses at 3 different colonies. Elias frowned. That's faster than we expected. The Council's official sanctions didn't include military action. Then perhaps the hegemony isn't waiting for Council approval, Catherine replied. What's your status? We've made contact with potential allies. There's a plan to access the Nexus archives, find evidence of hegemony corruption. Catherine considered this. That's a long shot, Captain. Yes, Mom. But if there's even a chance of avoiding full conflict. Understood. You have 48 hours. After that, I want the Intrepid back protecting our colonies. Her expression softened slightly. And Elias, watch your back. The hegemony has agents everywhere. As the transmission ended, Catherine turned to look out the window at the Washington skyline. The public didn't know how close they might be to war. She hoped Elias could find something useful, and soon. Across the city, in a small apartment, Sofia Martinez watched the news with growing concern. Images of her brother standing before the Galactic Council played again and again. Some channels called him a hero. Others called him dangerous. The door chimed. Sophia checked the security screen and quickly let in her friend, Greg Peters. Have you seen the latest? Greg asked, his face flushed with excitement. I've seen nothing but my brother's face for days, Sophia replied. Greg pulled out his tablet, not the official broadcasts, the underground networks. He showed her images of protests spreading across Earth's cities and colonies. People holding signs with Elias's face and the words, "We will not kneel." It's happening everywhere, Greg said. Your brother started something big. Sophia pushed her dark hair back nervously. He also made himself a target. That's why we need to help, Greg said. The resistance needs someone close to him, someone who can speak for the movement. Sophia shook her head. I'm a teacher, not a revolutionary. Look at this, Greg insisted, showing her more images. People gathering in parks and city squares across the globe. People are tired of alien species treating us like children. They need someone to give them direction. And you think that's me? You're Elias Martinez's sister. You know what he stands for better than anyone. Sophia looked at her brother's image frozen on the screen. He stood tall before the alien council, the only one not bowing or kneeling. She had always known Elias was stubborn, but this was different. This was purpose. What exactly are you asking me to do? Greg smiled. There's a gathering tonight. People who want to organize, to make sure your brother's stand means something. They need to hear from you. Sophia thought about her quiet life, her students, her plans. Then she thought about her brother facing the most powerful beings in the galaxy alone. When and where? She asked finally. I'll send you the details, Greg said. Just remember, there will be hegemony spies watching. They're afraid this spark might start a fire. Sophia looked again at her brother's face on the screen. Maybe it already has. The Grand Council chamber looked very different from the last time Elias had seen it. Then it had been filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Now it held only the 19 high counselors, seated in a half-circle on raised platforms. Elias watched from a hidden observation booth above the chamber. Counselor Xera had arranged this secret viewing, allowing him to witness the emergency session without being seen. The human situation requires immediate response. Supreme Arbitrator Voxtherian's voice boomed through the chamber. The hegemony leader was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to absorb light. Their defiance cannot stand. We have already imposed sanctions, another counselor noted. Perhaps we should evaluate their effect before taking further steps. Voxtherian made a dismissive gesture with his long fingers. Sanctions are insufficient. The humans must learn their place in the galactic order. Frank Johnson stood beside Elias in the small booth. Friendly guy, he whispered. Elias nodded slightly, keeping his eyes on the debate below. What exactly are you proposing? Counselor Xera asked, her voice calm but challenging. Military intervention, Voxtherian replied without hesitation. A demonstration of power at one of their colony worlds should bring them to heel quickly. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably at this suggestion. The Council has not authorized military action against a member species in over 200 cycles, an elderly counselor reminded them. Voxtherian leaned forward. The humans are barely a member species. They've contributed nothing of value to our civilization. That's not true, Tyra countered. Human art forms have spread throughout Council space. Their agricultural methods have improved food production on 17 worlds. Trinkets and simple farming, Voxtherian scoffed. Nothing that justifies their continued expansion. Their growth must be contained. Elias felt his hands tighten into fists. This confirmed everything Ambassador Caroline had told him. The hegemony didn't see humans as partners, but as threats to be controlled. The debate continued below, growing more heated. Several counselors supported Voxtherian's call for military action. Others argued for patience. We should at least bring the human captain back for questioning, a counselor suggested. His actions may be his own, not his government's position. That human stood before us and refused our most basic customs, Voxtherian replied. He should be executed for such disrespect. In the observation booth, Frank placed a warning hand on Elias's arm. Down there, they're talking about killing you, Frank said quietly. And up here, we're watching like it's some kind of show. We need to know where everyone stands, Elias replied. And we need time to search the archives. Frank checked his comm device. Lisa and Olivia are in position. They've accessed the archive entrance using Xera's credentials. Below, the council's debate had taken a new turn. Perhaps, said a counselor Elias didn't recognize, we should consider whether our own customs have become too rigid. The humans are young, yes, but they ask questions we stopped asking long ago. Voxtherian's eyes narrowed dangerously. Questions lead to disorder. The hegemony maintains peace through structure and obedience. The kind of peace that comes from fear is not true peace, Gadira said, earning angry looks from the hegemony representatives. Elias's comm device vibrated. He checked the message from Lisa Bennett. Archive access successful. Found something important. Meet at rendezvous point. We need to go, Elias whispered to Frank. They found something. As they slipped out of the observation booth, the council session continued to grow more divided. For the first time in centuries, the hegemony's complete control was being questioned. 20 minutes later, Elias and Frank entered a small research room deep in the archive complex. Lisa and science officer Olivia Pearson were waiting, surrounded by holographic displays of ancient documents. What did you find? Elias asked. Lisa looked up, her eyes wide with excitement and fear. Captain, we found records about a species called the Athrani. They stood against the hegemony 300 years ago. Never heard of them, Frank said. No one has, Olivia replied. Because they were systematically erased from history, their colonies taken over, their achievements attributed to others. But that's not the most important part, Lisa added, pulling up a genetic diagram. Captain, look at this DNA sequence. Elias studied it, then looked at her in confusion. It's human DNA, Lisa explained. Next to Athrani DNA. There's a match, a significant one. What are you saying? Frank asked. Olivia stepped forward. The Athrani weren't just similar to humans, Captain. According to these records, they might be our ancestors. Elias stared at the genetic comparison floating before him. The similarity between human and Athrani DNA was undeniable. How is this possible? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Olivia adjusted her glasses, a habit when she was deep in thought. According to these records, the Athrani were explorers. They visited thousands of worlds, including a primitive planet in a distant arm of the galaxy. Earth, Elias said. Olivia nodded. The records suggest they made contact with early human civilizations. There's evidence of genetic mixing. So we're part alien? Frank asked, looking uncomfortable with the idea. More like they're part human, Lisa corrected. The mixing went both ways. But that's not all we found. She brought up another document on holographic display. This is a record of the Athrani rebellion against the hegemony. Elias leaned closer to read. The Athrani had been a proud, independent species. They challenged the hegemony's control over trade routes and colony rights. When peaceful methods failed, they resisted with force. The hegemony responded by wiping them out. Lisa continued grimly, not just defeating them, erasing them, taking their colonies, destroying their records, even changing historical documents to remove mentions of their achievements. And now we show up, Elias said slowly, with DNA that matches a species the hegemony tried to erase. A species that also refused to kneel, Olivia added quietly. Frank whistled low. No wonder they've been trying to control our expansion from day one. Elias's comm device beeped with an incoming transmission. Captain, Daniel Wright's voice came through, tense and urgent. We've received an emergency message from Earth. Admiral Mills needs to speak with you immediately. Patch her through, Elias ordered. Admiral Mills's face appeared on his device, her expression grim. Captain, situation has escalated. Hegemony ships have moved beyond surveillance. They're now in attack formation near Nova Terra colony. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Has the Council authorized military action? That's the problem, Mills replied. The Council is still debating, but the hegemony ships are moving anyway. They're acting without Council approval. The implications were clear. The hegemony wasn't waiting for permission. They were taking matters into their own hands. The Intrepid is the closest ship to Nova Terra, Mills continued. Earth Defense Fleet is mobilizing, but they're hours away. You need to decide, Captain. Return to Earth as ordered, or divert to Nova Terra. All eyes in the small archive room turned to Elias. The decision weighed heavily on him. Return to Earth with their discoveries, potentially saving humanity in the long term, or rush to defend a colony that might already be doomed. If we engage hegemony ships, it could be seen as an act of war, Frank warned. And if we don't, thousands of colonists die. Lisa countered. Elias thought of his sister Sophia back on Earth, of the movement growing around his act of defiance. What message would it send if he abandoned a human colony when they needed him most? Admiral, the Intrepid will divert to Nova Terra, he decided. We'll do what we can to protect the colony. Mills nodded, unsurprised. I thought you might say that. I've already alerted Earth Defense Fleet to support you as soon as possible. Be careful, Elias. The hegemony ships outgun you significantly. We'll find a way, Elias assured her. And Admiral, we've discovered something important here. Something that explains why the hegemony has always treated humans differently. He quickly shared what they had learned about the Athrani. Mills listened intently, her expression changing from surprise to understanding. This changes everything, she said when he finished. If we can prove this connection. It won't matter if Nova Terra falls, Elias interrupted. We need to save those people first. Then we can worry about ancient history. Agreed, Mills said. I'll have Dr. Alan Richardson, our top xenobiologist, start analyzing the data you're sending. Good luck, Captain. Earth stands with you. As the transmission ended, Elias turned to his officers. We have a colony to save. Let's get back to the Intrepid. What about the Council? Olivia asked. They had their chance, Elias replied, his resolve hardening. Now they'll see what happens when humans decide to stand and fight. The U.S. Intrepid dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nova Terra system. On the bridge, Elias stood tensely as the view screen showed what they faced. 3 massive hegemony warships in attack formation near the colony's orbital station. Status report, Elias demanded. Lieutenant Commander Samantha Wells, the ship's tactical officer, studied her console. Hegemony vessels have weapons powered but haven't fired yet. They're broadcasting demands for the colony's surrender. Open a channel to the colony, Elias ordered. The face of Governor Patrick Bailey appeared on screen. The older man looked exhausted but determined. Captain Martinez, I never thought I'd be so happy to see one Earth ship. What's your situation, Governor? They're demanding we dismantle our defense systems and accept a hegemony security force on the surface, Bailey explained. They've given us 6 hours to comply. How many people on Nova Terra? Just over 4,000 colonists, Bailey replied. Our shelters can protect against orbital bombardment for a short time, but if they land troops... He left the sentence unfinished. Elias nodded grimly. Start moving people to the shelters. We'll buy you time. As the transmission ended, Frank leaned close to Elias. Sir, we're 1 ship against 3 hegemony cruisers. Each one outguns us 3-1. I'm aware of the odds, Frank, Elias replied. He turned to Communications Officer Lisa. Any word from Earth Defense Fleet? Lisa shook her head. Still at least 5 hours out, sir. The bridge fell silent as everyone realized what that meant. They needed to hold off 3 superior vessels for 5 hours with just 1 ship. Captain. Samantha spoke up. I have an idea. It's risky, but it might work. I'm open to suggestions, Lieutenant Commander. Samantha pulled up a tactical display. The hegemony ships are using standard formation for orbital intimidation. It's a pattern they've used for centuries. Her fingers traced lines between the enemy vessels. They're precise, coordinated, predictable. That's their weakness. How so? Elias asked. Humans are none of those things, Samantha said with a small smile. We're unpredictable, adaptive. If we use the planet's magnetic field to mask our approach and then execute random, rapid jumps between positions, we might confuse their targeting systems. Chief Engineer Maria Diaz, who had joined them on the bridge, frowned. The stress on our engines would be extreme. I'd have to bypass safety protocols. Can it be done? Elias asked. Maria thought for a moment, then nodded. Yes, Captain. But we'd be running hot the entire time. And we'd need to keep the hegemony ships from targeting the colony while we play this game, Frank added. I can help with that, Maria said. We've been studying hegemony communication protocols. I might be able to create interference in their targeting network, not enough to shut them down, but enough to make precision attacks difficult. Elias considered the plan. It was desperate, but they had few options. Do it. Samantha, plot your unpredictable course. Maria, start your modifications. We need to be ready before they lose patience with the colony. As his crew rushed to prepare, Elias opened a channel to the hegemony vessels. The face that appeared on screen was exactly what he expected. A stern hegemony commander with the typical gray skin and cold eyes. This is Captain Elias Martins of the Earth vessel Intrepid. You are threatening a recognized human colony without council authorization. The council moves too slowly, human, the commander replied. The hegemony has determined that a more direct approach is needed with your kind. I'm giving you one chance to withdraw, Elias said, keeping his voice steady despite knowing the threat was nearly empty. The hegemony commander actually laughed, a cold, unpleasant sound. You are one ship, Captain. One small, primitive ship. What exactly do you think you can do against us? Elias allowed himself a small smile. That's the interesting thing about humans, Commander. We're full of surprises. The transmission ended, and Elias turned to his bridge crew. All stations, prepare for combat. Samantha, how long until your evasive pattern is ready? 3 minutes, Captain. Maria, status of the engine modifications. Almost there, sir. Just a few more bypasses to complete. Elias sat in his command chair, his decision made. In 3 minutes, they would engage in a nearly impossible battle against overwhelming odds. This is what the Athrani faced, Lisa said quietly beside him. Yes, Elias replied, but they fought alone. We won't make that mistake. The Intrepid shuddered as another energy blast grazed its shields. Elias gripped his command chair as the ship executed another wild maneuver, diving beneath one hegemony cruiser only to surge upward and weave between the others. Shields at 38%. Frank reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. Maria's modifications are holding, but we can't take many more direct hits. They had been engaged in this deadly dance for nearly an hour. Samantha's unpredictable maneuvers had confused the hegemony ships initially, causing their precise formations to break down as they tried to target the much smaller Earth vessel. Colony status? Elias asked. Governor Bailey reports 80% of colonists now in shelters. Lisa replied. They need more time. Elias nodded. They had to keep the hegemony ships focused on the Intrepid and away from the defenseless colony below. Captain, Samantha called from Tactical. I'm detecting new energy signatures from the lead hegemony vessel. They're charging something big. Evasive pattern Delta, Elias ordered. The Intrepid banked hard, narrowly avoiding a massive energy beam that cut through the space they had occupied moments before. That was their main planetary bombardment weapon, Samantha said, her eyes wide. If that hits us, we're finished. And if it hits the colony, everyone dies. Elias added grimly. We need to disable that weapon. Chief Engineer Maria's voice came through the comm system. Captain, I've been analyzing their weapon signatures. Their bombardment cannon needs 30 seconds to recharge between firings. That's our window. Window for what? Frank asked. To get close enough to target the emitter directly, Maria explained. With a precision strike at the exact moment it's recharging, we might overload their systems. Elias considered their options. That would put us directly in the line of fire of their other weapons. Yes, sir, Samantha confirmed. It's a near-suicide run. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what was at stake, not just their lives, but the lives of 4,000 colonists. How long until Earth Defense Fleet arrives? Elias asked. Still 3 hours out, Lisa replied. Too long. The colony wouldn't last 3 more hours under hegemony attack. Sir, Samantha said suddenly, I'm detecting new ships entering the system. Frank tensed beside Elias. More hegemony reinforcements. No, Samantha replied, her voice filled with surprise. The signatures don't match hegemony design. There, I can't identify them. The view screen shifted to show the new arrivals. 3 sleek vessels with unusual designs were approaching rapidly, their hulls shimmering with an iridescent blue light. "They're hailing us," Lisa reported. On screen, Elias ordered. The face that appeared shocked everyone on the bridge. The being had features remarkably similar to humans, but with blue-tinted skin and eyes that seemed to glow from within. "Earth vessel, this is Commander Zara of the Eldarian Defense Force. Counselor Zyra sent us. We are here to assist." Relief washed over Elias, but he remained cautious. "Commander, we welcome your assistance, but you should know the hegemony has 3 warships in attack formation." Zara smiled, a very human expression. "Yes, we can see that. Poor tactical positioning on their part. Too rigid, too predictable." As she spoke, the Eldarian vessels moved into formation around the Intrepid, their advanced shields extending to offer additional protection. "The Eldarians are risking war with the hegemony by helping us," Frank said quietly. "Perhaps war is inevitable," Zara replied, having overheard. "The hegemony's unchecked power has gone too far. Your stand before the Council, Captain Martinez, inspired many species to question what we've accepted for too long. We've developed a plan to disable their lead vessel," Elias explained. "But it requires getting dangerously close to their bombardment cannon." "We can help with that," Zara said. "Eldarian shields can withstand their secondary weapons long enough for you to make your approach. We'll draw their fire." Elias exchanged looks with his officers. This was their chance. "Samantha, coordinate our attack run with the Eldarian vessels. Maria, prepare to give us everything the engines have when we make our move." "Captain," Lisa interrupted, "I'm receiving another signal. Multiple signals, actually." The view screen split to show several more ships entering the system from different directions. "Those are Brenari traders," Frank identified one group. "And those appear to be Krell science vessels," Samantha added, pointing to another cluster. One by one, ships from different species appeared, positioning themselves between the hegemony warships and the Nova Terra colony. None were military vessels, but their presence sent a clear message. The hegemony did not speak for all. "It seems your defiance has started something, Captain," Zara said with another smile. "Now shall we show the hegemony what happens when the galaxy stands together?" Elias felt a surge of hope as he gave the order. "All ships, prepare to engage." 2 weeks after the Battle of Nova Terra, Captain Elias Martinez once again stood before the Galactic Council. This time, the chamber was different. Representatives from dozens of species filled the observer galleries. The mood was tense but expectant. The hegemony's defeat at Nova Terra had shocked the galaxy. When ships from 7 different species joined the Intrepid and the Eldarian vessels, the hegemony commander had been forced to withdraw or risk starting a multi-species war. Footage of the battle had spread across all communications networks, despite hegemony attempts to block it. It showed something many had thought impossible: the mighty hegemony retreating. Now, the council had been called into special session. Supreme Arbitrator Vox Therian sat in his elevated chair, his gray face impossible to read. The other council members were arranged in their usual semicircle, but something fundamental had changed in their dynamics. "Captain Elias Martinez," Vox Therian began, his voice cold, "you stand before this council, accused of inciting rebellion, interfering with lawful hegemony operations, and accessing restricted historical archives without permission." Elias stood tall, just as he had during his first appearance. Beside him stood Ambassador Caroline Holt, officially representing Earth's interests. Behind them, a delegation of humans and representatives from various alien species watched. "These are serious charges," Vox Therian continued. "How do you respond?" Elias looked directly at the Supreme Arbitrator. "I did what was necessary to protect innocent lives and reveal hidden truths. The real question is why the hegemony attacked a human colony without council authorization." Murmurs filled the chamber. Vox Therian's eyes narrowed dangerously. You dare question? I think we all have questions, Counselor Xera interrupted, standing from her seat, such as why records about the Athrani species were systematically erased from our archives. She activated a holographic display that showed the genetic comparison between humans and Athrani, or why the connection between humans and a species the hegemony attempted to destroy was hidden from this council. More murmurs, louder now. Vox Therian's hands gripped his chair armrests tightly. These are internal hegemony matters, he insisted, not subject to council review. I disagree, said another counselor, rising to join Xera. Genocide of a species and falsification of historical records are very much council matters. One by one, more counselors stood, forming a visible division between those supporting an investigation and those loyal to the hegemony. Elias stepped forward. Members of the council, what happened at Novaterra was not an isolated incident. It was the result of centuries of unchecked power. The hegemony has ruled through fear and manipulation for too long. Communications specialist Ryan Cooper, standing near the back of the human delegation, gave Elias a subtle nod, the signal that all was ready. Many of you have lived under hegemony influence for generations, Elias continued. You've forgotten what it means to determine your own destiny, but change is possible. Vox Therian rose from his chair, towering over the proceedings. Enough. This human has no right to address the council in this manner. Guards, remove him. But the guards didn't move. Throughout the chamber, beings from dozens of worlds watched silently. The galaxy is watching, Supreme Arbitrator, Elias said calmly. Right now, this session is being broadcast on all subspace channels, bypassing the normal censors. Vox Therian's face contorted with rage. Impossible. Our communication systems were designed eons ago and never significantly updated, Ryan explained, stepping forward. A critical weakness when facing human ingenuity. Ambassador Caroline Holt addressed the council formally. Honorable members, Earth does not seek conflict. We seek partnership based on mutual respect. No species should kneel before another. None should rule through fear. She gestured to the diverse group behind her. The delegation standing with us today represents 12 species who share this vision. We propose a reformed council where power is shared equally. Counselor Xera nodded in approval. The motion is recognized and will be put to vote. Vox Therian looked around the chamber, seeing support for his position crumbling. This is treason, he hissed. No, Elias replied. This is freedom. In the days that followed, the council underwent its most significant transformation in 10,000 years. The hegemony's special privileges were revoked. Historical records were restored. Species long subjugated found their voices again. And at the center of it all was the story of one human captain who faced the Galactic Council and refused to kneel. On Earth, Sofia Martinez watched the broadcasts with tears in her eyes. Her brother's defiance had changed everything. Across human colonies, people celebrated, not victory over aliens, but partnership with them. When Elias finally returned to Earth, he found not just a hero's welcome, but a new purpose. Earth would take its place among the stars not as conquerors or servants, but as equals in a community of worlds. The galaxy would never be the same again.